Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Anxiety Chicks podcast. I'm Allison Sepanera,
And I'm Taylor.
and we're excited to be back here with you guys. It is our exciting episode that we love. The first episode of every month, we do a Q&A episode, and we go live every Wednesday at 3 Eastern Standard Time, and we get all types of questions from our listeners. We also put a question box in our stories. And so we just love to answer your questions. We get so many valuable questions that I think so many people actually have the same type of questions for. And so we've just gotten really good feedback. So we're excited to be here again today. Hi, Taylor.
Hello. My allergies are acting. I don't know about yours. I'm sorry if I'm itching my eyes and you're watching this on video. Like all of a sudden you started talking and I wanted to like scrape my eyes out. So yeah, sorry about that. But what did you say? You said, how are you?
I said, how
Listen,
are you? What are your allergies?
it's been a long, like the last, let me
Oh my
think,
God, girl.
2 weeks or week and a half, whatever. I mean, listen, you went through this kind of when you were a caretaker for your dad before y'all.
Yeah.
He didn't immediately go to a home.
No. So let's
No,
jump
yeah.
into where I wanted to ask you about
Yeah.
how your mom's doing because
Last week's episode.
you had mentioned that something was going on with your mom, and I wanted to kind of just hear a little more about it and make sure she's okay and just tell the listeners, give them an update on what's been going on.
Yeah, so if you listen to last week's episode, I was kind of talking about like how we can't live in like fear of things happening to us, and like if things do happen to us, even if we will be okay, like we'll push through. However, like in that time of pushing through, it's really hard, not just on the person going through something, but the people around you, especially if like you are just incapable of helping yourself. So basically, my mom was playing pickleball and she ruptured her Achilles. Like she's not even a big time player, but she was just out there like a lot of people are, and she went forward and just it just ruptured. And if you know anything about Achilles ruptures, it's not good. It's really, really bad actually. So she had to get
Okay.
surgery, and she like literally like 23 out of 24 hours a day has to have her toes above her nose. So like that, like it has to be like,
What?
yeah, no, it's an,
How do you
yeah.
do that?
So they give you this pillow thing where it props your leg. So she was in a splint. She just switched from a splint to a cast, and she still will be in that for another 2 weeks. So this has been like, I think she's been down like 3 weeks now, but she's only been down from
Oh my
surgery
gosh.
like a week and a half to 2 weeks. Anyways, but like she cannot do anything for herself. It is like, it is so sad. Like it is the craziest thing. And the guy was saying, and it's funny because I say like, oh, pickleball is like really good if you're looking for community and like just to get your mind off things. But he was like, I'm doing one surgery a week from pickleball because it's all these people who have maybe never done a sport before, or they haven't played a sport in a while, and they just get up and they go all out. They're diving for balls, you're cutting really fast. And let me tell you something, going through an injury as someone who's like very active, my mom is a very active person. And like, I empathize with her so much because like I see her going through this, and like if it was me, and she's having like breakdowns like ever so often, she's
I'm
having a little
sure.
bit of a
Yeah.
breakdown. She's just like broke down the other day when like my dad had to like wash her because it's like she can't even wash herself. It's like you feel like you're just like 80 years old, and she's
Yeah.
57 and she's not able to do anything. You don't realize how like lucky we are to be healthy and the things we should be grateful for that we
Yeah.
have in this moment right now. And so it's just been a lot. And I feel like my dad, we've been switching shifts on helping her. So
Oh
it's a
my
lot.
gosh.
Being a
Well,
caretaker is a lot.
no, and just hearing the way that it happened, obviously she's an active woman, right? She likes
Yeah. Yeah.
pickleball. She's really, and I know you've described a lot about her before. And that I feel like is like even 10 times worse when someone is active and she wants to be independent, right? And she likes staying moving and stuff, and she can't right now.
It's kind of all she has. Like her hobbies are like she loves going on long walks. She loves
Yeah.
walking outside. She loves dancing and Zumba and weightlifting. She's so healthy and active. Like that just goes to show you anybody can get hurt. But like I said in that episode, like we can't live in fear, of things happening to us. However, it's a good reminder for everybody. Like if you have something that's like irritating you, or you're not stretching, you're not warming up, warm up, stretch, really take
Yeah.
care of your body because you don't realize how important it is until you get hurt.
And is that something that she recognizes that was kind of missing from her like
I
activity?
think,
Was she not
yeah.
stretching and stuff?
So
Okay.
she thought she was, but like when come to find out, like with pickleball, especially, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a sport, you know, it's
Yeah.
like going out and playing tennis. However, with
Hmm.
pickleball, like you can't just like really go out and play tennis, but anybody can go pick up a pickleball paddle and start running around the court. You know what I mean? Like you can throw the ball in the air. It doesn't matter how good you are. And so a lot of people just show up and they're not doing any type of warm up, which like you really
Yeah.
need to warm up every single muscle. Like a quick little jog. There's good YouTube videos on that, but like they're seeing a ton of pickleball injuries because I think people just don't think of pickleball as a sport really, and they just go out and they jump in a game and they didn't warm up any muscle. And then you do a quick cut, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And there's so many people that are, really active, but are older people that love the
mhm.
sport. And I even when I went to a couple clinics, I remember them, saying to everybody when we were practicing, you have to warm up, you have to do this, and you want to really be careful in the way that you move your feet because, especially if you're older, you need to be
Yeah.
careful. You need to be
Yeah.
more careful. It just is what it is, right? You can't defy age. But it sounds like she's healing and, she has the support of you and your dad and stuff. And so hopefully she makes a recovery. Do you know how much longer she has before she can
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
walk? Is it long?
So Achilles is like really bad. Oh, and the other thing is like Achilles is the biggest high risk surgery for blood clots. I don't know why, but that's been just like, and it says it on the paper. Like, I have so much, I'm just so proud of my mom, honestly, because like
Yeah.
I was reading her papers and I was having anxiety. I was like, I really don't like
Yeah.
her strength. I was like, I don't know if I can go through this. Like, I was reading a paper and it's like, you are at extreme risk for blood clot. I'm like, what the? If I read that, and then you're having to
My
like
God.
you can't, and then you can't move. And then she goes, and this is a great question. She goes, well, how would I even know to like what signs would I look for a blood clot? Because you have a full on cast. Can't see your leg swelling. You can't see if it's red. Of course, it's in
Right.
pain. You just had surgery. So it's like, what are the
Right.
signs? So
Do they
yeah,
do they give any preventative ways to kind of help yourself
yeah,
not have
yeah,
that
yeah.
happen?
They put you
Okay,
on a
good.
blood. They put her on aspirin. Yeah,
Blood thinner. Okay, good.
yeah. I mean,
Oh
she's
my
having to take like
goodness.
Percocet every couple hours, Advil. It's crazy. And hers like came off the bone, so they had to like,
My
yeah.
gosh.
So
Well, hug her for me.
yeah.
I know that I don't know her personally, but I feel like I do with the way and she seems, like she's a fighter.
Has your mom ever
So,
had injury,
you
fell,
know,
or
what's
dad?
interesting. So, my dad, of course, we've talked about that on
Yeah,
here with what
but
happened to
he
him.
when he fell, it was more like his mental was also
So he had been
like my
struggling with
grandma.
with
Yes,
balance and stuff. Yeah. And he was 75.
yeah,
So he was older, but he had been struggling with balance and some other issues with his feet. And then he also broke his femur, which is like
yes,
a death wish for older people.
yeah, yeah,
But with my mom, I will say the difference that I see. And they're both, they were in their 70s. My dad was in their 70s, my mom 76 or something. I will say the power of like exercise. My mom has worked out and done aerobics like in the
yeah.
80s since she was like in her early 20s, and she
Mm-hmm.
still works out every single day, and she's just doing it differently now as she gets older, but she is
Still
very
moves her
strong. Her
body.
muscles, her bones are amazing. My
Yeah.
dad hardly worked out ever. He
Oh, wow.
moved a lot, like he was in business and he walked places a lot, but he never like did any
Yeah.
strength stuff. He didn't work out. And I'm telling
Yeah.
you, the
No, you're
key
right.
to, and your mom, I mean, maybe she is like this, maybe has been active. I don't know if she worked out, but what has
No,
she?
what I have to say on that is it's different. So like your mom and my mom, like Zumba, aerobics, walking,
Mm-hmm.
weights, all those things. My mom was never an athlete. So she was never in sports where you have to cut or like sharp lateral movements. Like a lot of people who get into pickleball who have never played a sport, that's where the
Yes.
issue lies. It's because
Yes.
you don't have that footwork. You've never learned footwork like you learn in sports. Like if you've done basketball, volleyball, soccer, whatever, you learn some sort of footwork. So
Yes.
that's the thing. It would be like if your mom just was like, okay, I'm going to go play tennis,
See, that's so
you
true
know?
because we did actually play pickleball. I brought her to a clinic one time and it was like women her age, so it was very easy and like
Yeah.
slow. And we played a couple more times, but I could tell for her I was getting kind of nervous. And I thought,
Yeah. The
okay,
move,
well maybe we can
when you see some of those women move, you go, you're like,
yeah. Yeah.
whoa, like their body almost
Yeah.
moves before their feet. You're like, hang on.
100%. And I was just like, okay, maybe like every once in a while we can like
Okay, mom,
volley
let's
it,
put
but
you in some
you
bubble
don't
wrap.
need to be playing pickleball. Right, totally. So she's really careful with stuff like that. But I will say for your mom, I bet just even if she just because has been like my mom with exercise and stuff, her healing process is going to be way better than it would have been if she
Yes, no,
didn't,
you're right. And the doctor said that. The
right?
doctor
Yeah.
took off her splint and was like, "Oh wow, you have no blood. Your inflammation's super low." So like, yes, her healing process is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're rooting for you. What's your mom's name?
Cindy.
Cindy, we're rooting for you, Cindy. I hope that you're okay if you're listening. Okay, let's get to the Q&A
Yes.
and answer some questions. Sound good?
Yes, you want to go first since you have
Yeah.
four?
Yeah, I'll go
Okay.
first. And I have something right here. So we got great questions today from the live, and we got so many. And I'm just like, these are new questions too that we haven't answered before. The first one I want to answer is someone who asked about coping skills for being around, for being an anxious person when you're around someone who also has anxiety. Like, what are some coping skills and what ways can you deal with them? I feel like I've mentioned this in some other episode before because this has happened to me so many times and I've really had to learn how to deal with being around people in my life that I know have high anxiety but aren't necessarily in tune or are working on it. They're just anxious people and they're not really aware of it and they don't really have introspection. And so I have learned, and this is one big thing, if you're this person who asked this question, you have to kind of identify, are the people around you actually aware of their anxiety? Are they working on it also? Or is it someone that you are able to kind of bounce ideas off of? Can you guys sometimes co-regulate together, which means, I have people in my life that I'll do some meditation with or I'll go to yoga with. Sometimes we'll do some breath work together. And so we'll do some co-regulation, which is so helpful and amazing if you find someone who also is working on themselves and working on that healing journey. And you can kind of dive into both your toolkits and do those things together. And it can actually be such a bonding experience and it can really be helpful. And look up co-regulation if you want on Google or something, because there's probably so many other types of ways you can do that together with someone else. Now, if you're someone who is around someone who does not have that awareness, does not want to practice any of those things, is just an anxious mess and convinces you that they're fine all the time, and that they're just, you can feel the energy, the anxious energy when you walk in the room with this person. And in my brain, these people come right to my mind. I know exactly who they are in my life. And you might be thinking, oh my God, that's this person for me. You need to do a couple things. Okay. One, you need to work on boundaries. You really, really need to work on recognizing when you feel regulated enough to be around somebody like that. And if it's your partner or if it's your child or something, then you really need to start having conversations about how to shift the dynamic. And maybe that includes therapy together. Right. But if there are certain friendships or there's certain family members that that you're not living with, anyone you're not living with, really work on boundaries and what you need for self-preservation and what you need to help kind of regulate yourself. That doesn't include these people, right? I'm not saying they're bad people, but maybe they're not calming to your nervous system, right? And not everyone's going to be. So work on setting boundaries and then work on creating your toolkit and recognizing that when you're starting to feel dysregulated, what are the things in your toolkit? What are the ways that you can help yourself feel really centered and grounded if you know that you're going to see this person? Like sometimes you don't have a choice, right? You want to set a boundary, but maybe there's a birthday party, or maybe there's a Thanksgiving day, or maybe there's a friend that's going to be at this event that, oh my gosh, she's going to be there, but I want to support this other person. You have to really become clear about what you can do to help your body definitely your body, because the mind and the body are so connected, to stay in this state of regulation, knowing you're going to be around this person. And that probably means that, a week before this event or wherever you're going to see this person, you have to start practicing calming your activating the parasympathetic nervous system, doing some breath work, meditating, talking to a therapist, shifting the way that you think about things, knowing that, you can still set boundaries when you go to somewhere, right? Maybe instead of staying for 5 hours, you stay for 2. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's a long-winded answer, but that's my first question.
No, that's good. Okay, next question. This one's kind of funny because they started off with, "You never answer my ask me anything." So I need to answer this.
Okay.
How did your husband react to your previous mental health? I think that's a really good question, actually, because I think that how somebody reacts to you struggling with your mental health determines the future of you and that person's relationship. Because I do not think you deserve to be with someone who doesn't accept every version of you, because in this life, we will have many versions of ourselves.
Mhm.
And if you are able to show someone that a not so perfect version of yourself early on, even better, because that's how I saw it. It was like, oh, okay. He was willing when we were just dating to accept me at my worst when he had no commitment to me. He wasn't married to me. He didn't have to date me. That showed me the kind of person he was. That shows character. That shows someone who's going to stay by your side no matter what. So yeah, my husband was very supportive, though he didn't always understand, and neither did my parents, which you can't expect people to fully understand anxiety. It will not, or mental health struggles. It will not make sense totally to someone who's never been through it. But if they're trying to learn and they're trying to listen and they're doing their best that they can with what they know, then that's all you can ask of someone. There's no perfect person who's going to just be like, you're like, "Oh, I'm struggling with anxiety," and they're going to fix it for you. Like if you're expecting a significant other to come into your life and be able to just fix your mental health, no, mental health recovery starts within yourself. However, having a support, you deserve that. Like point blank. So if somebody is in your life and they're like, "Oh, this is just too much for me," then great, you made it easy on my decision that I don't need you in my life, because I do struggle with mental health and that is a part of me. And if you think that's weird, odd, uncomfortable for you, then so be it. Like
I
that
love
quote
it.
we said 2 weeks ago, you could be the sweetest peach in Georgia, but somebody doesn't like peaches. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. So true. Yes. I love that.
doesn't make you broken or imperfect. Like it doesn't. It's
No,
just something you go through. Everybody in this world will go through something in their life. So if whoever this man is that is like, "Ooh, mental health, absolutely not." Listen, he will have his day. He or she will have their day.
yeah. And I mean, you really want to be with someone who makes you feel safe, right?
Mhm.
And so anyone who has any type of judgment about something isn't going to make you feel safe, right? So make sure you tune into that. Okay. Tune into that within yourself. Is this person, judging me? Do I feel safe with this person?
Do
Yes or
I feel
no?
like I can't share myself? I have to hide my mental health struggles? Oh, let me tell you, in the long run, that will exhaust you. it
100%.
it won't end feeling good. You'll end just making your anxiety or mental health struggles worse, which you don't deserve that.
No, 100%. Love it. Okay. My next question is, someone asked on the live today if I had any book recommendations for anxiety. I had asked this person to be a little bit more specific, but I didn't get that. So I'm going to share with you a couple books that I have that can be really helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show you the cover of the book so you can kind of see what they look like. And then I can put them in the show notes also, so you can click on them. Okay. So this first one is actually by, if you struggle with like OCD, or any type of OCD related tendencies, this is going to be a game changer for you. And this is actually by one of our amazing guests that we've had on twice, Kimberly Quinlan. Okay. And it's called the Self Compassion Workbook for OCD. I literally am currently using this with one of my clients. I've used it with a couple other ones in the past too. And it is so amazing, incredible, especially if you're, and I would say this is really good for like clinicians. If you're a therapist or someone who works with someone that struggles with OCD, it can be such a helpful guide for you with that client. But if you struggle with OCD or anxiety, you can also just pick this up yourself and really try and learn about it and advocate for yourself. So Kimberly Quinlan's book is amazing. The next one that I feel like I've talked about a lot on this podcast, this is connected to anxiety. It's not like specific anxiety, but it's definitely connected to like core beliefs and the way that we think about CBT. This is also not just for clinicians, it's for anyone who feels like they need to work on self-love and feeling lovable and feeling worthy of themselves and feeling like they want to feel like they're enough. And this is Love Yourself, Heal Your Life. This might be backwards in the video. I don't know. But
No,
you'll know
it's
this
the right
when
way.
you go to the show notes. Louise Hay. Okay, this is the workbook. It also comes with a book that is supplemental to this that actually talks to you in a way of how to love yourself and what it looks like. And she's like the queen of affirmations. So this workbook's like amazing. It has all different, I've like post-its and stuff. I've done it myself. And you don't need to do this book front to back. There's all different chapters, and some of the chapters won't relate to you. So like, there's a chapter on addiction and loving yourself through that, but not everybody struggles with addiction, right? And then there's a chapter on like anger and how to deal with anger. And not everyone will do that. There's a chapter on judgment and fear and facing your phobias and self-love and all that stuff. So Louise Hay, Love Yourself, Heal Your Life. Of course, I'm going to say my own book. Of course. Hello. The Anxiety Healer's Guide is amazing. And also the guide for clinicians is right here. It'll be in the show notes. But as a holistic psychologist, there's just a lot of wonderful tools and strategies and techniques to use that can help regulate your nervous system and help you create your anxiety healing toolkit from, distraction techniques, grounding meditations, visualizations, actually like tangible items that can help calm your nervous system to put in your toolkit, your support systems, how to create boundaries, and a lot of just different exercises that can really help you learn how to cope. And then the last one is this self-love workbook for women. Again, I think just because there's still such a stigma with mental health, and when you struggle with anxiety or depression or any other type of mental health, there's this like voice in your head that's always just telling you like something's wrong with you and like you're damaged. You know what I mean? And it just literally it's like it breaks away like pieces on like an ice chipper does on your self-esteem. And I just feel like it weighs you down, and you just feel so less than sometimes when you struggle. And you really have to work on every single day practicing love for yourself unconditionally. And this workbook is amazing. And this is by Megan Logan, who is a social worker, and she's amazing. And I'm using this with clients. And then one other one I'm going to say is, I don't have it in front of me right now, but is How to Do the Work by Nicole LaPera. Unbelievable for anyone that's had experienced trauma. She's the holistic psychologist on Instagram. She's huge, has millions of followers. That book's just amazing in helping you understand more of the science behind anxiety and about trauma and depression and how the body keeps score, right? That's another one. The Body Keeps Score is another book I love. Anyway, I could go on and on, but they will be in the show notes.
Yes. Okay. Next question. I can't believe we've never answered this. When I read it, I was like, oh my gosh. But have you ever dealt with health anxiety, but related to real health issues? And I sat back and was like, I mean, honestly, like a huge, I think, beginning of my health anxiety was from this trauma when I was a kid of being at the doctor's office. I've kind of told this story before. I was at a doctor's office trying to get a physical approved for sports, and the doctor was like listening to my heart. And I can like remember this moment like it was yesterday. The doctor was listening to my heart, and like she told my mom, she was like, something doesn't sound right. And I'll never forget like my mom's face. Like my mom's face just like screamed anxiety, you know? But when I was a kid, I like didn't think anything of it, and I just went along with the motions. And they said, oh, she's fine, like just has PVCs or something. I can't really remember what they said when I was a kid, but they like sent me downtown and we did all this testing and stuff. And so I think like later on in life, when I started like having those anxiety symptoms, health anxiety symptoms, I would have a lot of heart stuff, and I would be like, oh my gosh, this is like what they were talking about when I was a kid. It's going to kill me. And so like, yes. So like, I feel like that was a big thing I focused on because of what I went through as a kid. But I think also this question is asking, like, say right now you have you got diagnosed with cancer or something. How do you have you ever dealt with having health anxiety maybe after getting through it or while getting through it. I'm sure while getting through it, you have so much adrenaline going that you just want to fight it. But I feel like I
Mhm.
see this a lot too on social media, like someone who's beat cancer, they're just like, I don't know how to live a normal life again. So I think that's a
Yeah.
really good question. And I think a topic we could dive in deeper
Yeah.
on in
No,
an
for sure.
episode.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, check that off there, like star that, because I think it would be really great to get someone on to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, like a real health issue, like that's real. So it's like, how do you change the brain from some there when, because a lot of times we say like there are no facts. Like with anxiety, you're anxious about things when there are no facts, but what happens when there are the facts?
Yeah. And I think, the one thing that I have, as a psychologist, worked on myself with clients. I've had a lot of chronically ill patients and people who have had been in a situation where there's just an uncertainty about their health, but they know there's a diagnosis and they're not sure. And that's really where it comes from, that uncertainty, right? So much of what what is helpful to an extent, right? Because it's very destabilizing, right? There's not really much you have control over in those moments. And the only thing you really can do is think about what you have control over, creating some space in your brain to shift the way that maybe it's going, which is probably really negative, and which is probably really a spiral, like intrusive, right? With the things that could happen and what ifs. And more than ever, it's probably going to be so important to try and ground yourself and really practice centering your brain into the present moment and
Mm-hmm.
taking each minute by minute and leaning on your support system and feeling the feelings and doing what you can in the moment, right? Also, actually, the episode we have would be so good for someone if they're experiencing like anxiety around death too when it comes to being sick. That
Mm-hmm.
episode that is death anxiety keeping you from living?
Mm-hmm.
That episode would be great. We'll figure out what that is. I think it's like
But
episode 8 or
definitely
something.
doing one on like chronic illness specialist would be cool to have on, just to speak on like how you help people who, hey, you've just been given like a lifelong diagnosis that doesn't maybe have treatment. Or I know there's people with like fibromyalgia and things where like they're just kind of told, hey, go home, nothing we can do for you. And like we said
100%. I'm
on the
writing that down.
live, POTS is also another one where it's like,
POTS. Yeah, you guys we're gonna get a guest on about POTS. Okay. Um, wait, was that your question or mine? Okay, so it's my question. So you look up the death anxiety episode. See what episode that is while I do my next question. Okay, how to get to the root of your anxiety. This is one of the questions. And I'm laughing, I'm chuckling because
okay, wait,
yeah,
is your anxiety based around fear of death? Right? That's one.
I think so. What episode is that?
174. Because then there's also episode 18, which is death anxiety is fear of dying stopping you from living.
Yes. Yes. Either one
So
of those.
18 or
I think it's
174.
I think they're the same episode. We just replayed it because it was so
Okay.
popular. Um, yes, so listen to one of those. Okay, so the root of the anxiety. How can you get to it? And the reason I was chuckling was because I wish that there was just an answer I could give in 2 minutes. And there's literally no answer I could just give you in 2 minutes because it is complicated for everybody. Not one person's anxiety is going to look so different from someone else's. So getting to the root of it and also their ability to get to the root of something, right? And to identify emotions and to identify intrusive thoughts, and have they, worked on certain therapy before, or this is their first time. Is it going to take, how long will it take? There's no one answer. It's going to look so different for everybody. And the only thing that I can suggest is that you can really find support and guidance when you're actually looking to really get to the root of something, which means seeing a specialist and seeing a psychologist or a therapist who specializes in that, and recognizing that you're going to have to go deep into things that might make you feel uncomfortable, right? There's a reason why our body and the way that our body manifests anxiety is very physical. And also, that includes some trauma too. If you've experienced trauma, if you haven't actually processed through it or talked about it, most likely your physical symptoms are going to be way more intense. It has to manifest somehow. So be patient with yourself. find someone you feel safe with to go there with all those really uncomfortable feelings and emotions, and recognize that, ask yourself certain questions, and when a therapist is maybe challenging you and you feel uncomfortable, sit with it and just keep going and don't give up.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. My
Wait,
last question.
yeah, you have another one. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, bye guys. I'm just kidding.
I was like, what? Okay.
Okay. I'm having a period of which I need to look up if we did an episode on this too. I'm having a period of insomnia and scared I will be this way forever. I want to talk on this because the mindset around sleeping when you're struggling with an episode of insomnia is so important, because it's like when you have an event. Have you ever had like a really early morning event where like I got to get up at 5 a.m. I got to get ready from 5 to 6 so that I can be out from 6, and you're like calculating all these times. And
Yes,
you often find that when you do that the night before, you don't sleep because you're so anxious about making that certain time that
totally.
it's that mindset around sleeping that you end up just not sleeping at all. I know this happens to me. Like this has happened to me, gosh, like 10 times in the last year, where I'll have something and I'll like schedule out the time so much, especially if it's early morning, that I'll find myself like at 2, 3 a.m. just rolling around and being like, I just want to sleep. And like the more you're telling yourself to go to sleep, the more you just don't sleep because you're like making your
Oh my
brain
gosh,
overthink sleeping.
all the time. That is like, I feel like the bane of my existence the past couple months, especially because I'm going through perimenopause. So there's
Yeah.
like a whole bunch of stuff
Yeah.
there too.
But it's
But
so true. Like your mindset around sleep, it's like the more you focus and think about sleeping and like, I got to get the 8 hours in, I got to get and you start doing like when you do this, like, oh, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, when you start like calculating how many you're going to get and you keep doing that, it gets worse.
I know for people it's different, right? There's some people that can't, like, really struggle with falling asleep, and then there's people that can fall asleep but they wake up in the middle of the night. That's me. And I can fall asleep but then I wake up in the middle of the night, and that's like even worse because I wake up and I will say to myself as soon as it happens, don't look at the clock. Don't look at the
Yeah.
clock. Don't look at
Yeah.
the clock. And I look at the clock every time.
Because you're like, you almost like took a nap or something. Like you're like ready to go.
Well, totally. And I sometimes I can make myself, well, first of all, one thing that really helps me is I automatically put on a podcast really low volume or something, or I'll put on a meditation at really low volume, and usually I can get back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But
But it's got to be
sometimes, yeah,
something so boring. You cannot put the
so
anxiety
boring.
checks on.
Yes, and the sound is really, really low. Like it's not really high in my ear. It's a low decibel. But if I have something the next day though, and I know I need to wake up, it's totally worse because I have. Oh my gosh, when do I need to wake
Mm-hmm.
up? Oh my gosh, I need to.
Oh my gosh, look, we're an hour away. If I fall asleep, will I miss my alarm clock? Because now that I've woken up in like all those thoughts.
100%. So I think that when it comes to sleep hygiene, I know I talked about that a lot on other episodes, but it's just really important that you get your brain into the state of sleep about a half hour to an hour before you go to bed. So, which means, stay off your screens or don't put on TV. That's definitely easier said than done, right? But making sure the temperature in your room is the right temperature, right? I think sleep experts suggest like 68 degrees or something, which to me sounds freezing, but I do try and keep it cooler.
I do that. I do 68.
Yeah, like, no, thank you. I'm freezing. And then, think about the noise around you. I have a white noise machine that really helps keep the noise at bay. I make sure that my routine before bed, I wash my face and I get into bed at least like a half hour before. And then I listen to a podcast, I listen to meditation, I do some stretches sometimes. And yeah, just really try and think about what would make your system start feeling soothed and tired. That's just the biggest thing you can do.
Yeah. Sleep hygiene is so important, and having a routine. And the more you just stick to that routine, even on the days where you feel like you got to wake up a little earlier, your routine's going to be scheduled in the next day. You just got to still go with your night routine. Like just stick with it. Change nothing.
Yes. And if you need a little bit of like melatonin in here and there,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I do it. I've also been taking some THC, CBD gummies, which are amazing. And so anyone who's interested in, learning a little bit more about like THC or CBD, you can DM me. I'll give you some information about that. But, you know, there's, and a lot of people I know, whether it's my friends or my clients, some of them sometimes take medication, and it's not every single night, but sometimes they have some medication for themselves, and, you know, they take it in the way it's prescribed and it helps them too.
Yeah.
So, all of those. Okay. My last one, I'm going to make a little bit shorter. Okay. I'm going to try. Someone asked what they can do, and I love this question because we haven't really tapped into this much on this podcast. Someone who's in 10th grade, a 10th grade student, asked how they can help cope through anxiety around school. And so, and I didn't get much more specific information than that, right? But I can imagine all the pressures that come with being a high schooler these days, especially someone, you know, the past couple years, if you think about how so many kids, you know, with COVID and all that stuff, and being in high school is such a pivotal time in life biologically, right? And developmentally, and being around peers is important socially and all that stuff. But there's also a lot of anxiety academically and trying to figure out what you're going to do after you graduate. Are you going to go to post secondary school? Are you going to go to trade school? Are you going to work? What are you going to do? What's going on in the school days, right? Maybe you're struggling with friendships or to fit in, or I don't know if something's going on in school. And there's just a lot of pressure, I feel like, for high schoolers, so much more these days than even when I was in high school. And I think that the best thing that you can do. So I was a school counselor for a couple of years in Philadelphia at a high school. And all I remember is in my office as a school counselor, and this is why I hope maybe whoever's listening, if you're in high school, you have this type of person, whether it's a school counselor or someone, a teacher that you feel like you can really trust, an adult you can trust in the school to go to and just help them kind of advocate for you when it comes to your social situations or even academics, or maybe it's other teachers that you're struggling with, but at least you have someone like an adult in the school that can help advocate for you. Right. And maybe, hopefully it's a school counselor. I know not everyone's, you know, school counselor. They have a lot of students and a lot of people they're seeing every day. And I know they're busy, but I remember my door was always open for any student whenever they wanted to come in and they had something they needed to like either vent or needed to talk to me about. Of course, sometimes there were like 8 students in my office at once, right? Trying to ask me different questions. But sometimes I would just say, you know, students would come to me and they just needed a space for about 20 minutes to just sit in quiet. And they really needed to take a break from, you know, the stimulation of school and the pressures and things were going on. And sometimes in their home life, right? There's so much going on. And I said, you know what? Go and take a little breather right here. You're totally okay. I'll tell your teacher and you can just take a little break. And then I would even do some breath work with them. I'd help teach them and talk to them, of course. But I think if you can somehow find an advocate for you that's an adult in the school, it can be really, really helpful. And then also don't be afraid to talk to your parents or whoever your caregivers are about what's going on in school. I know it's really, really hard to talk about feelings when you're young,
Mhm.
or even as an adult when you get older. It's really, really hard to talk about feelings. But I think one of the best ways for teenagers especially to kind of process their feelings before talking about them, write them down. I would get a journal. I would write your feelings down every day, kind of write things down. Sometimes it's a lot easier to write things out than say it, right? And so if something's going on, I would say get a journal and maybe think about who are those safe people for you, the safe adults for you in your life, and maybe share one of the journal entries with your counselor or your mom or your dad if it's hard for you to actually say it out loud without that, right? So that can be really important. So those are just a couple of things I would suggest.
Yeah. I think high school's rough. It's hard. It's finding people who love you for you. You don't feel like you're having to fit in with them. You are just yourself and you're not falling for it's easier said than done. I did the same thing. I stressed myself over the dumbest things in high school that didn't matter, and here I am years later like, why did I do that, you know? And
Yeah.
there's just also reminding yourself like high school passes and there's a beautiful life ahead and there's so much better things after high school. High school isn't the end all be all. I think that's how I felt in high school, is like this, oh, high school's this friend group and all these people are forever. And it's like, no, a lot of times you don't find even your best of friends until later on in life. Cause like I said in the first question, we have so many versions of ourselves that we will experience and go through. And a lot of times you don't even know exactly who you are until you get older. So it's just working through the hard times and the good times are ahead.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I want to say my healing tip of the week. Okay. And this is, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but some of my healing tips might sound a little bit similar to the ones I've suggested in the past, but that's only because I want you to continue to do them, right? So we'll see. But you guys know how I feel about my holistic ways of treating myself, right? And how you should treat yourself. But I really want you to, because it's a Q&A episode, so there's a lot of different topics, right? So I'm just going to do a general healing kind of guideline right now. And I want you to think of your top 5 healing tools that you use right now. And I want you to put them in order of which one you feel like it helps you the most to like the least, like the top 5. Okay. If you don't have 5, that's okay. Do like top 3, right? And I want you to practice whichever that top one is. I want you to try and do that every day if you don't. You know it's helpful for you, right? So if you know something is helpful for you, I want you to incorporate that more into your life every day. And then once your brain and your body gets into the habit of doing that tool or that technique, and a habit takes probably 21 to 30 days, right? So say you try it like every other day for 21 days, who knows how long it will take you. I want you to move on to the second one. Okay. I want you to start practicing that and creating a habit for that specific tool or technique that helps you. And all of this is about like regulating your nervous system, right? And a lot of times I talk about the toolkit, and that whole point of creating this healing toolkit isn't just to like whip it out when your anxiety is at like a 9. That's not going to work. You want to start incorporating these tools and techniques into your daily life when you're actually feeling like you're inside your window of tolerance, because that's when your brain is actually going to retain and your body is going to understand and recognize that's what helps you. And then so when you start getting anxious and you start feeling like you're going to a 5, 6, 7, your brain is going to actually remember, oh, okay, wait, here's what I know helps me and here's what I can do. It's going to help you start thinking more rationally.
Yeah, that's a good healing tip. Okay, quote of the day. You don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you.
I love that one. I think that I've seen that a lot and I love it. Can't say it
Yeah,
enough for
literally.
sure.
Like, so every time you get a thought, it's just a thought. It doesn't have to be a fact, you know? It's just floating. We get so many thoughts a day. I can't remember what the number is. If you Google it, you get like I think
It's a
thousands
lot.
of thoughts a day.
It's
It's
like
a lot.
70,000. Yeah.
Yes, thousands of thoughts. So it's like if we worried about every single thought we got and let it control our whole day, well, there's anxiety.
There it
So
is. Exactly.
there it is. All right. So
All right, you guys. Well, didn't expect this to be this long, but I love it. Usually our episodes. We will see you next week. We'll be live next Wednesday. Please review, subscribe, rate us. We'd love it. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
bye.